Hi, my name is Royletta Romaine. I'm the owner of Healing by the Forkful. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian as well as a certified LEAP therapist from Boston. LEAP stands for Lifestyle, Eating, and Performance. I help my clients reduce or stop symptoms of inflammation, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, migraines with food, not medication. You can find me on Instagram at Healing by the Forkful, or you can email me at healingbytheforkfulrd@gmail.com. My mini podcast is short and sweet and to the point. A few times a month, I will bring you a new person who has helped a person or who has been helped by a person using what I call a personalized anti-inflammation blueprint. Please send me an email if you have questions or would like to be on the podcast. My hope is to reach as many people and help as many people as I can. So, welcome to Healing by the Forkful. Let's get started. So, today we have dietitian Jane Regan with us, and she is going to tell us about how she got involved with LEAP, and she's also going to tell us about some of her patient success stories. So, we're very excited to have you here today, Jane.
Hi,
Welcome.
Roletta. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So you've done the protocol yourself, and you've also been helping patients feel better. So I guess we will focus this one on your experiences as a certified LEAP therapist. I would love it if you would introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been a certified LEAP therapist.
Sure. My name is Jane Regan, and I'm a registered dietitian. I live in Boulder, Colorado, where I have a private practice. And I've been a certified LEAP therapist, I think like 15 years.
Yeah, long. Wow.
I know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm also a certified eating disorder specialist, and I have my master's in counseling. I don't often do the LEAP protocol on people with eating disorders, but I see people that don't have eating disorders, and I keep doing it because I have felt it to be so valuable for people over the years. And so I started, let me think. I started before I even went to work at the university. I worked at the University of Colorado at Boulder for 10 years. And they allowed me to do the test there that students could pay, and not go through their insurance, of course, but they, at the medical center, students would have the ability to see me, pay for the test, get the results, and I could, do it with them. And it was so interesting because at the time I had just heard about LEAP, and I was just I was using it a little bit before I went to the university, and I was wondering, like, are there any other tests out there? And I'd have students come in, and they would have gotten a test someplace else, and it was using an IgG test, and they would be, reactive to all these foods, and I'd be scratching my head a little bit, thinking, is this really real? Yeah. And so a nurse practitioner at the center with me, we kind of collaborated, and we decided to do a blood draw from a student, and we sent it to 2 different IgG labs, the same blood draw, and we got 2 different results.
Wow.
And I thought, I can't use that kind of test, right? Like, this is not working. Is there a test that is really helpful, right? That makes a difference for people? And so I did all this research, and I really came up with, the LEAP test and MRT. And so what I did, because I really wanted to make sure that, yes, this is really the real deal, and they are testing, what they test for is actually, what someone is reacting to, is for hundreds of students that I worked with over the 10 years that I was there, I kept data on. And so I would have them fill out the symptom questionnaire, right, that everyone does beforehand on all the different bodily symptoms. I would give them their results. They would take out their foods for a month. And then I would have them do another follow-up symptom questionnaire. And I would put the results of both questionnaires into a spreadsheet, and it would do the symptom change. And so I would see for each student in each category what their symptom change was after taking out reactive foods from the MRT. And so I was really able to get all this great data, which I should really give to LEAP, because it's real data. And I saw that on the whole, GI symptoms decreased by about 90%.
Wow.
The only time I saw that they didn't decrease, like maybe it was about 40%, is if the person had SIBO. Then I saw it was a little different, right? Because it really wasn't so much about the food. It was more about, the bacterial overgrowth.
Right.
And then for overall body symptoms, I saw a decrease of about 75%.
That's amazing.
When people did reintroductions, I would not see that they reacted to all the foods that were on their MRT results, but that they would really react to several of them. And so my theory on that is kind of like the water in the bucket, right? Like, is it the inflammation as the water goes down and we're feeling less inflammation? So we eat a food that might cause a little bit of inflammation, but the water isn't overflowing the bucket, right? It just kind of goes up a little bit. But if we have those foods that really do create the bigger inflammatory response, then we feel that water. And if the water is always kind of at the top of the bucket, anything we eat, that's problematic is causing an inflammatory response. And so, I got such good results from it that I just kept doing it and was just very careful, that of course I didn't do it with eating disorders. I think I did on one eating disorder person with a lot of really strong boundaries there, but for the most part, I don't. But it's probably the test I do the most. I do SIBO testing, I do GI map testing, micronutrient testing, but the MRT test is the one I still do the most.
Okay. So you did say only one person with eating disorders. Can you just tell our listeners why we tend not to do it with people who have
because there are so many food fears with eating disorders, and so much entrenched diet culture, and we already hear enough of like, eat this, don't eat that, this is a good food, this is a bad food. And the last thing I want to do is see something written in paper for someone with an eating disorder that says this is going to cause some response for you.
Right.
I would rather, with an eating disorder, kind of do it the old-fashioned way of like, let's see how you feel after these foods and see if we can kind of connect the dots.
Right.
Rather than have something written down that they see, red, green, yellow.
Exactly.
Yeah. It just it's too triggering for them, and I don't think helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just haven't had anybody who specializes with eating disorders, so I wanted to just let the listeners know why we think it's a better idea not to do that. So tell us, I've just been like so entranced in what you're saying. Tell us how long you've been a CLT again?
Almost 15 years.
Yeah. Okay. That's so much time. You have so much experience. So there are a lot of people that say that this test isn't necessarily the best test. It's not a gold standard, even though we see it as a gold standard of food sensitivities. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, just listening to the studies that you've done on your own patients, I'm just like, it's a no-brainer that it works so well. But tell us what you would tell.
I think my experience being in the field all these years is that there's no perfect test, right? Like even when we do allergy testing, RAS testing, like blood testing, it's not perfect, right? Or even scratch tests, like there is no perfect test out there. But if I'm feeling really stuck with someone or somebody else is feeling stuck and they just want to get some more clarity, I think it's a great place to start to really, especially now that there's 177 foods, chemicals, spices, to get a sense of some hidden chemicals, other foods that are within foods that we don't think about that could be problematic. And I've also, with students when I was at the university, tested a FODMAP test versus a MRT test on someone.
Wow.
And the student had more symptom relief with an MRT than with a FODMAP.
Interesting.
Because although FODMAP can be helpful,
right?
For sure. But it was more personalized for this individual, right? It's their own blood, and it gave more food and chemical and spice options than a FODMAP did. So it was more helpful for decreasing symptoms for this student, because we first started with a FODMAP. He didn't want to spend money, right? And then got some symptom relief, but not as much. And then we did an MRT. He got more, and it was more valuable.
And that's typically what happens. Like people do the MRT as a last resort. So I don't really mind. I feel bad that they are experiencing pain and difficulty for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
But I do feel great that when you come and you do the protocol properly, you're going to feel so much better, so much relief.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. That's what I see. It's rare that I see someone that doesn't get relief from it. And, again, there could be something else going on in their gut. They could have gastroparesis. They could have a bacterial overgrowth. There could be other things going on. And the other bucket I think of for GI health is anxiety, right? And mental health.
Sure.
And so it's not even really about the food. It's about they're constantly in fight or flight. Their anxiety, their nervous system is amped up, and all of that is impacting, their vagus nerve, their digestion. And so it isn't always about the food.
Right, absolutely. What do your patients say is the hardest part about following this protocol?
I would say where some of these foods like garlic and onions, let's say, sneak in, especially if they go out to dinner at night, or they're just hidden in certain foods. Or if I'm working with a student, especially if I've got a student who lives in a dorm, right? That's really hard, right? Or the dining hall, right? Then they don't have, if there's someone that doesn't have a lot of control over making their food, or there's financial barriers, right? And now they're trying to eat gluten-free, but yet gluten-free is more expensive. And, where do they go for this? And they don't have a car. And so some of the planning pieces can be hard. But I always try to create substitutions, right? So that there's not this deprivation feeling, because having an eating disorder background and working in the field, I see the negative psychological parts that come from depriving someone of food.
And I think that's so key, is that working with a dietitian who is who's taking the test and is prepared to do this protocol with patients. We don't just give you a list and say, go at it. You know what I mean? We actually sit with you and find out what foods you enjoy, how we can substitute, and we actually guide you through the process instead of just saying, don't eat that, don't eat that. Oftentimes, if you go to the doctor, they'll just give you a list and say, you have this, don't do this. But it's really helpful to have a dietitian to help put all those pieces in place.
And for meals, for snacks, for going out, for eating in, on vacation, right? All the different scenarios, last minute, don't have time to make something. What do you grab? What's something frozen? All of those different scenarios in one's life. And I also tended to try to match how to take out foods with the particular person. Like, for example, if I have someone who's living in a dorm, who's a freshman in college, I don't have them do the typical protocol of, each phase, because it's just impossible, right? They won't do it.
Right.
And so I just have them take out all of their yellow and red foods, because it's much more effective for them to do that than to not do anything.
Exactly. You want to make it as easy and as productive as you possibly can, so that they can see the results the soonest as possible. What is the main timetable that most of your patients see an improvement?
I would say, many feel better within the first week. Right? And then sometimes even, then 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But usually like that first week, they can start to see a difference. And some people, if there's one particular food that's really bothering them, they take it out in a day or two.
Exactly. What has been the longest time that you've worked with someone before they saw relief?
Full relief, maybe like 3 weeks. But again, most people, it's pretty noticeable after a week.
I agree. I just like people to know. I was very fortunate where I saw differences in about 5 days. And then I have some patients who it does take 2 weeks. Some of them have taken 3 weeks. But I just, when I first started the podcast, some of my friends were like, well, you say that you got in such a finite period of time, a short period of time. What about those? What about those others? And I think it's important to realize that this is very individualized, and work with you through the whole process. So it's just really important that this is your journey, and you have to follow your journey, and we'll be here to support you through the entire time. Let's see. So now I want to talk about success stories. This is like my favorite part. What do you have for us? I cannot wait to hear.
Oh my God. Well, I'm trying to think, I have seen hundreds. And so I'm trying to think where to start. I mean, I think of one gentleman, he just had constant reflux and he could not figure out what it was. So we did an MRT, and one of the foods that came back, it wasn't even a red, it was yellow, which I find that a lot of the yellows are just as significant as the reds. So I kind of tell clients that.
Sometimes, and it also depends on how often they were eating those yellow foods.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so this is exactly right, Roletta. Like in this situation, it was yogurt, and he was eating yogurt every morning. And he said, yeah, but I mean, yogurt's good for you, right? And I said, well, yogurt is more acidic and it's fermented, and let's just see how you do when you take it out. Literally like 2 days after, all of his reflux went away.
Wow.
All of it. It was the yogurt. It wasn't any of the other foods. The yogurt was the main thing. And he was just really dumbfounded that such a good food. Another really good food, this was interesting. My dermatologist was having these achy joints in her hands. And, she's a dermatologist, so she's working with her hands all day. And so she came to me and she said, I really want that test done. And so we did it. And one of the foods that came back was flax seeds. And she's like, what? She said, like, flax seeds are so good for you. And I said, well, do you eat very many flax seeds? And she said, well, funny enough, like a month ago, I started taking flaxseed pills.
Oh, no.
Right? This like high intensity flaxseed pills.
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's just try this. Let's take out the pills, right? Let's take out any other flax seeds and some of our other foods. And, but that was one of the ones that was red. And I happened to run into her on the street 2 weeks later. And I was like, okay, how are your hands? She's like, you're not gonna believe this. She goes, all of the aches in my joints are gone.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and still, even she has since moved, but she was here still up to a year ago, and we'll still joke about it. I'm like, "How are your hands?" And she's like, "They're so much better." And I can think of another woman. She was in her 50s, and she came in, and her main symptom was fatigue and low sex drive. Right, and you might think like, okay, menopausal, right? All these hormone changes, like that's an avenue to go down.
And then you're tired, so who wants to have sex? So,
right. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so that was really, she didn't have any GI issues, no skin issues, no joint issues, nothing. It was fatigue and low sex drive. And so the food that came back was wheat. And of course, I don't always see that wheat comes back. You probably don't either. I see there's people that can definitely eat wheat and are absolutely fine. But wheat came back for her, and she's like, okay. So we figured out how to take out wheat for all of her meals and eat gluten-free. And she came back 3 weeks later, and she felt so much better. Her sex drive went from like a 1-0, right, on the score to like a 4.
Wow.
And she said, my fatigue is so much better. My sex drive is better. And I jokingly said, well, do you want your husband to thank me? Like, you should come in and thank me. So that was kind of an interesting one, because she didn't have all these other symptoms. And I'm sure like you see, sometimes I have people that it's everything, right? All over the board. And they've got a score of like 120 for their symptoms. And other times, literally, it's like 20 is their score. And they just have like something very specific. Like I've had one person I worked with had eczema, really significant. And we really talked about healing from the inside out, right? Instead of just putting on more creams and medications. And she really wanted to heal in a different way. And so we worked on her gut health and took out her foods. And and eczema can be hard. And she had probably a 60% decrease in
wow,
eczema.
that's amazing. Now, can you, I know you're telling us lots of different success stories, but it's also interesting. Can you tell us what food caused this for this particular person? Just so that they can get a kind of an, if you can think of it, an idea of that. It's not everybody that has a problem with wheat. It's not everybody that has a problem with green beans. It's not everybody that has a problem. So I guess I'm trying to get
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember for the eczema what it was. I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
A lot of people with eczema, they're like, oh, I can't have milk and dairy. And that's
Right.
not always true.
Right. Yes, yes. And then I've had people who are keeping foods out, and then it shows like, oh, this food's actually okay. And then they feel the sense of safety in a way, the opposite of like the deprivation and not feeling safe. Like, oh, maybe I can try this food.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, in our culture, we hear often like, don't eat dairy, don't eat wheat, don't eat this food. But yet this says it's okay to eat. And then they eat it and they feel okay with it. And it kind of gives them permission.
There's so many people who are just like randomly taking foods out of their diet, and they're not getting all the nutrients and all the vitamins because you've pulled out a full group, and you didn't need to. We could have helped you through that.
Another one I was thinking of is actually my daughter. When she was in college, she had terrible migraines, right? And of course I was like, okay, we're going to do an MRT test, but hers was not a chemical, which you often see with migraines. Mm-hmm. She had soy that was reactive, right? It was red. And so she took out soy. And as you know, soy is in so many things, and it's hard as a college student.
That's one of it's in everything.
It's everything. And so, and her headaches got so much better. And then one morning she called me, and she had gotten up and she was vomiting, and she had gone home and decided to watch a late night movie and had a bag of chips and just ate the whole bag of chips. And in the morning when she had the worst headache and she was vomiting, I said, go look at the chips and see what was in them. And there was soybean oil. And there's, and she was like, oh my gosh. And so still to this day, she, gets soy sauce, like the Bragg's aminos and gets other things instead of soy, and it makes a big difference. So, but I have seen people with chemicals really, be impacted. And I tend to see patterns with chemicals that either, right, maybe it's one or two, or it's quite a few. And the person, I always ask them before I give them the results, do you think that are you someone that reacts a lot to chemicals in foods, right? Whether it's lotions or shampoo or the food, or and they'll either know, oh yeah, that's me, or no. And I find that it correlates with their test.
Nice. Okay, give us some more stories.
Some more stories. Let me see. I had one family come in and want to do it on all four of their kids. The mom, dad, and the four kids. And we all know this is not an inexpensive test.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And I thought that was really fascinating because I saw correlations between the mom and dad and the kids.
Wow.
And that there were some similar foods. There were some differences, but enough similarities to make you think, wow, that's really interesting. And I also did it on myself with my daughter and some of my other kids. And also saw some of these similarities with my husband. And
it definitely makes it a lot easier when you're preparing foods if most of the people in the family have the same issues. But it's not always.
It's not always right, but enough that it is striking. And then I would redo it on myself. Right, I've redone it on myself several times. Many years will pass. I'll redo it, and what I'll notice is that some things do change, right? But some of them stay the same.
Nice.
Which is really interesting.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, what are your foods?
Oh my gosh, what have I had? Well, they have changed a bit. One that always seems to stay consistent, which is such a bummer, is caffeine, which is really true. Also, I have had wheat at times. I don't anymore. I eat gluten. I eat wheat. I'm totally fine. I've had some dairy foods. When I haven't done it for about 3 years. So, and I'm always one that's kind of testing it out to see, do I still notice or not? And the one that always stays consistent is the caffeine, for sure. I know that one does not change.
But I mean, it's 6 o'clock. Well, we have a little bit of a time zone, but it's late afternoon and you are full of energy. So obviously you don't need
well, you know what I've noticed is that, okay, I used to be a 3-shot latte girl and loved my coffee when I lived in Boston too, loved it. But as I got older, it just did not agree with me and made me feel kind of achy and fluey. And I just did better without it, but it took me so long to get off of it. And I kind of went kicking and screaming and finally got off of it. And the truth is I have a lot more energy without it. And my energy is consistent instead of like these kind of highs, which feel great, but then like your blood sugar dropping and having these lows, and it's just much more steady, which has been very helpful. And yes, it's something to get used to not drinking it and trying to figure out what to replace it with, but it's okay. There are a lot of options. And then I'm reminded when I do have it, like, oh yeah, I remember this doesn't make me feel very good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Who else do you have up your sleeve? Tell us more.
I
Funny because I feel like I'm like asking for gossip, but we're not asking for gossip. We're asking for good facts for people feeling good, and so it's nice to be excited about something like that. As opposed to
I would say I've worked a lot with a local medical center and the immunologist, allergist, who's also the medical director. And she now does the MRT in her practice, in a mainstream practice. She does, of course, scratch testing and food allergy testing, but does this on the side too, in case someone, she wants to try going down a different path with somebody. And I will run into providers, medical providers who might not agree with it, or say, and then I tell them like, hey, this is my experience. Like I saw this on hundreds of clients when I was at the university, and I actually put all their data into a program and to see the symptom change. And I wouldn't be doing this unless I saw that this actually made a difference in the majority of people I work with.
Yeah, that was my whole thing, because I had never, I'd never even heard of it. I'd been a dietitian for many years. I'd never really heard of it, and I was just kind of like my wit's end, and I was just like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And like I said, within 4 or 5 days, I was just like, what have I been missing? Like that's why I started my practice, because I felt like I had to show people how well this worked and how much better. People were asking me, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what? And they're like, you're not like grimacing, you're not making faces, you're not, you just seem to be more pleasant. And I'm like, whoa, because I'm not in pain. And if you notice that without me telling you, that says something for sure.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I see it impact people. They sleep better, right? The achy joints and muscles, their skin, so many GI issues.
It's nice to actually be able to rest. I mean, people go to sleep and then they feel better when they wake up. A lot of times I would go to sleep and I would just feel like I'm not as tired, but I still feel really crappy. You know what I mean? So it's nice to wake up not tired and not feeling crappy.
Yeah, for sure. And it's such a great tool to use with people, right? And it's so easy to use and so clear cut. And I've had people where they don't necessarily want to reintroduce their foods because they're like, well, I feel so much better. I'm like, okay, we don't have to, right? Yeah. It's really, I
didn't have that many reds. I have not reintroduced my reds and was like, why bother? I don't need them. And that's perfectly okay with me.
Yeah. Have you redone yours?
Well, mine, I've only done mine up. It was only been about 3 years. So probably in the next couple of years, I will. But I haven't, like I said, I haven't reintroduced my red foods. If I try different food, I'll only try something that, one food that I haven't had in a while, just to kind of make sure. But I have had a couple of, for the most part, I have not reintroduced. Definitely not the red foods, but there have been a couple of yellow foods. Like I love Mexican, so it's hard to go to Mexican and not have corn chips, which is soy. So I know when I have Mexican food, that's the problem. But I found the foods that I can have that aren't going to cause that problem in a Mexican restaurant. So
and usually, no matter what the food is, there's always a way around it, right? At a restaurant, at someone's home, at your home, and something that's really works just as well. And then when someone feels better, they don't mind keeping it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will continue to use it. It's I find it really helpful.
Give us one more story, and then if there's somebody that you had who was hemming and hawing, what would you tell them?
Well, if there's someone who's hemming and hawing about taking the test,
Mm-hmm.
right, I'd look back over their history and say, like, okay, have your symptoms improved? Like maybe we've tried this or we've tried that, or we've really tried to pinpoint things, or we've tried supplements, we've tried relaxation strategies, we've tried, right, taking food, maybe we've tried a FODMAP, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just not quite getting to the base of it, or we've tried a stool test and, okay, let's see if this is really about some food that we're not able to recognize.
Mm-hmm.
That you think is okay, kind of like the yogurt. You think it's supposed to be so good, it's, but for that individual, it wasn't. And I really think this is so much in today's day and age about individualized nutrition, right? It's not a broad brush where like
Yes.
everyone should be eating the same food. It really is about that one person. And so it's just so important to, use the right tool.
Absolutely.
And so we weigh the options and usually they say, okay, go ahead and do it. And then they're always excited they got it done. And they're like, sometimes sending me message, have you got the results back yet? Because they want to know. And I love that you can get the results back in 7 days, right?
Yeah.
There are certain tests out there, I'm waiting 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And so the 7-day time
it seems like such a long time. We're used to having, Amazon delivery tomorrow. So if you have to wait more than 7 days, you're just like, okay. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Really hard. Really hard. All right. So one more quick success story, and then I'll let you go because I know you probably have a patient because we're in different time zones.
Well, it's Friday afternoon, so actually, hopefully not.
Oh, okay. Good.
But yeah, I mean, gosh, again, so many digestive issues, but one I can think of who had significant constipation, right? Like could not get it figured out, even with the right fiber, water, exercise, relaxation. And this person reacted to corn, right? Such a common one.
Mm-hmm.
And when they took out corn, they started to be much more regular, and they were just amazed by it. And corn, just like soy, is in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And of course, this was a person who loved to go out for Mexican food. It's always hard when you get the person who reacts to corn and wheat together, because then they can't have the corn chips or the tortilla or the, but yet there's so much relief that comes when their symptoms go away, especially with something like constipation, that they don't almost mind. Like it's easy to find a different chip or a different tortilla, or, again, I think some of the harder ones at times to keep out are more the spices or the garlic and the onions and the things that just kind of sneak their way in.
Absolutely. Everybody starts with an onion, sauteed onion, and then just add other things to it. Garlic, it just goes in the without people even thinking about it.
And I do think more like breakfast and lunches are easy to do without garlic and onions. Yeah. It's the dinner. I think that's more challenging for people. Or sometimes if I have people who, they're not able to drink wine, they're salicylates or that can be hard, but actually amazing. And again, it's really fun to see people's reactions and how they feel. I'm sure you noticed the same thing.
It's amazing. I mean, like I said, I've been through it. It's life-changing. It really, really, really is.
Yeah.
Any last words you want to share with our listeners?
I would say, there are people that may, especially in the medical field, feel like this isn't a valid, accurate test. And what I would say is, I don't know, the proof is in the pudding. Like, ask the people that have used it and what their experience has been, and that foods do make a difference. And sometimes, people think that it's not going to make a difference, providers, if we change foods, but we all know as dietitians that it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And everything from their physical health, like their gut health, to what I see so much, and my favorite intersection is that mental health and nutrition.
Yes. That
it's their mood that changes. It's their
depression. If you don't feel good, you're just not in a good mood, plain and simple. And then it goes further than that. But like, that's the basics that everybody can understand. when you don't feel good, what happens? You're grouchy, you're not focusing really, really well. And then that just kind of spirals to having other issues during the day to affect your mood. So
yeah. And so I just think it's an exciting tool that to have in your toolbox, right? That can be really effective with somebody. And so this is why I keep doing it after all these years.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's making me think again about why I'm so happy that I decided to do this. And for me, it was a last ditch effort, and it wasn't because there was nothing else. It was because I hadn't really heard of it. And at the time I was just like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just do it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't even believe this. So when you can have such positive change and nobody knows what you're doing, that's a real sign that it works. So I'm so happy that we finally caught up. Jane and I've been trying to get this appointment together for a while, but life happens. But it was so worth the wait. I will put Jane's information at the bottom of the show notes, and you'll be able to check her out if you are in Colorado. And she also does a lot of work with eating disorders. So I'm going to, again, when you've listened, we don't really do this protocol with a lot of people with eating disorders, but I just feel there are more and more eating disorders, and as much information as we can get to anybody who needs it, we should offer this information and this connection. So I will be putting Jane's information down in the bottom, and be sure to contact her if you have someone who can benefit. So thanks for your time, listeners, and thank you so much, Jane. It was so lovely getting to speak with you.
Thank you, Arletta.
Yeah, keep up with the with the studies that you've been doing, because I'd love to check back a few months or a year and see some more success stories that we can share with everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks
so much. And just remember, inflammation affects mood. It affects how you feel. It affects blood sugars. It affects so much in your body. So it's just not just for migraines and fibromyalgia. It can really change your world. So thanks for joining us today, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.